Good day to all of you. I am Renzo Evansilo Manglas of AMT 2-2 and I am here to discuss the topics from preliminaries to finals of helicopters. So basically, we are talking about the fundamentals of helicopter, what are helicopters, and we are going to dig down the parts of the helicopters. So what are you waiting for? Come and join me as we explore the world of helicopters. In this presentation, we'll talk about how helicopters achieve vertical flight, the different rotary system they use, and how pilots control them, and why maintenance is such a critical part of keeping them flying. We'll also explore important components like the swash plate, the transmission, the Jesus nut, and the anti-torque system that prevent the aircraft from spinning uncontrollably. By the end of this discussion, you'll see that even though helicopters are compact, the engineering behind them is incredibly detailed. And understanding this system is the key to operating and maintaining them safely. Let's talk about helicopters and how we went from centuries-old dream to the incredible machines we have today. The idea of vertical flight, being able to take off, land, and hover without a runway, has always fascinated people. In fact, it goes all the way back to ancient China, where kids played with bamboo flying poles that spun like tops to create a lift. You also got thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci sketching out his aerial screw, which was a precursor to the helicopter we know today. But it wasn't just about dreaming. It took real pioneers to make this idea a reality. In the late 1800s, people like Launoy and Bienvenu started building small models inspired by those early toys, while Sir George Cayley worked on principles that led to the idea of counter-rotating propellers. Then, in the early 1900s, Paul Cornu became the first person to fly a manned free-flying helicopter, although it wasn't really practical because it is dangerous. By 1923, Juan de la Cierva developed the Autorigo, which got us closer to stable rotary flight, but the real game changer came in the 1930s with the Foch Achilles FA-61, the first practical helicopter design. In 1940, Igor Sikorsky introduced the VS-300, the first successful single-rotor helicopter. It solved some of the biggest challenges like counteracting torque, using tail rotor, and paved the way for modern helicopters. So that's our history of helicopters. Now let's discuss the forces acting on the aircraft. There are four main forces that govern the flight of any aircraft. First is thrust. So thrust is the forward force produced by the power plant or rotor. It opposes drag, which is the force trying to slow down the aircraft down. In helicopters, thrust is typically parallel to the aircraft longitudinal axis. The second force of flight is drag. Drag is the rearward force caused by the air resistance as it flows over the rotor blades, fuselage, and other parts of the aircraft. It opposes thrust and acts in the direction of the relative wind. Third one is weight. Weight is the total load of the aircraft including its structure, fuel, crew, and cargo. It pulls the aircraft downward due to gravity. Next one is, or the last one is lift. Lift opposes weight and keeps the helicopter in the air. It is created by the air moving over the airfoils, like the rotor blade in this case, and acts perpendicular to the flight path. Factors like airfoil speed, air density, and blade area, and the angle of attack affect the amount of lift generated. Let's talk about airfoil. Airfoil is any surface that generates more lift and drag when moving through the air at a proper angle. In helicopters, the main rotor blades are the airfoil that generate the necessary lift. Airfoil are critical for lift reduction, stability, control like the elevator, thrust, the rotor or the propeller, and these are the parts of the airfoil and its meaning. Leading edge is the front part of the airfoil. Trailing edge is the rear part of the airfoil. main camber line is the line that runs halfway between the upper and lower surfaces, while the chord line is the straight line from the leading to the trailing edge, and the camber is the curvature of the airfoil upper and lower surfaces. We have two types of airfoil. Symmetrical airfoil, which is the upper and lower surfaces are the same. There is no lift at zero angle of attack, and most light helicopters use this type of main rotor blades. The next type is the non-symmetrical or the cambered. So the airfoils are the upper surface is more curved than the lower. It produces useful lift even at zero angle of attack and more lift at given angle of attack compared to symmetrical ones and better lift-to-drag ratio. However, they can create an undesirable torque and more expensive to produce. The helicopter flight control. Now, how does the helicopter pilot control of this? There are four main control inputs. The cyclic or the cyclic stick. So cyclic stick, think like a joystick. It controls the tilt of the rotor blade, which changes the direction of the helicopter flight, and it is typically located between the pilot's legs, but on some helicopters like the Robinson R-22, it is a central pillar that both pilots can use. Next is collective. The collective lever adjusts the pitch angle of all main rotor blades at the same time. It controls the overall lift produced by the blades, increasing or decreasing the total lift as the pitch changes. It is typically located on the left side of the pilot's seat and has the friction control to prevent accidental movement. Third one is anti-torque pedals. This controls the yaw of the helicopter turning left or turning right. It is located where the rudder pedals are in the airplanes, and this pedal changes the pitch of the tail rotor blades, controlling the thrust of the tail rotor. More pedal pressure changes the tail rotor pitch, which in turn makes the nose of the aircraft moves left or right. The fourth one is the throttle. The throttle controls engine power, which is directly connected to the rotor speed. Helicopter rotors need to operate at a specific speed for proper lift, so the throttle ensures the engine provides enough power to maintain that speed. On many helicopters, it is like a twist grip mounted on a collective lever, kind of like a motorcycle throttle. So, in summary, helicopters relies on balance and interaction of thrust, drag, weight, and lift to fly, with the airfoil generating lift and the flight controls allowing the pilot to adjust direction, altitude, and stability. These forces and controls are what make vertical flight and maneuverability possible. Today, I'm going to discuss the basics of helicopter operation and maintenance, starting with the rotary system and the different types used in helicopters. To begin with, the rotary system is the main lifting component of the aircraft, consisting of the mast, hub, and the rotor blades. The mast is a hollow metal shaft driven by the transmission. The hub connects the blades to the mast, and the blades themselves produce lift as they rotate. There are three main classifications of rotor systems: semi-rigid, rigid, and fully articulated, with some modern design using combination known as bearingless system. A rigid rotor system has blades that are firmly attached to the hub with no mechanical hinges. Instead, blade movement such as feathering or slight flexing is handled by elastomeric bearings, which are rubber-like materials that twist and absorb stress. This system provides good control response and lower maintenance, but it can be more stressful on components, causing the bearings to wear faster. A semi-rigid rotor system usually has two blades connected through a tethering hinge, allowing one blade to flap up while the other flaps down. This design compensates for the symmetry of lift, which occurs between advancing and retreating blades. Semi-rigid system allows feathering, flapping, and limited lead and lag movement, and they operate with parts like static stops, pitch horns, and feathering hinges. They place less stress on component but can be harder to repair and more vulnerable to rapid lead and lag wear. Lastly is a fully articulated rotor system is more complex and include multiple hinges that allow each blade to flap up, feather, and lead or lag independently. The lead-lag movement mainly results from the Coriolis effect when rotor speed changes. These systems are found on helicopters with 4 blades or more, especially heavy lift and with combat helicopters. While they offer excellent maneuverability, they require more maintenance due to the many moving parts. Next is, there are 3 main types of anti-torque system: the traditional tail rotor, the fenestron, and the notar. The traditional tail rotor uses exposed blades powered by a drive shaft connected to the transmission. It rotates faster than the main rotor and changes pitch angle to generate side thrust. This system uses components like hangar bearings, gearboxes, pitch links, and tail rotor drive shaft. It is simple and strong but can be dangerous because the blades are exposed and difficult to see when rotating. Next is the fenestron or fanning tail system. It places multiple small blades inside a circular duct built into the tail structure. This design is much safer because the blades are not exposed. It can produce smooth, efficient thrust, but it is heavier due to the enclosed structure. Lastly is the notar system, which means no tail rotor. It removes the tail rotor entirely. Instead, it uses an entire fan to pressurize the tail boom and release air through slots and rotating nozzle. This uses the Coanda effect to counter the main rotor torque. Notar is quieter, safer, and less prone to damage, but it requires careful maintenance because the system is more complex. Today, I'm going to talk about the basics of helicopter operation and maintenance, starting with the parts and components. A helicopter may look simple from the outside, but its system is actually very complex. Even though it's smaller than airplane, the fast-spinning rotor make it much harder to control. From the cockpit to the tail rotor, every part plays an important role. The instruments inside a helicopter are almost the same as those in a fixed-wing aircraft. Next is the cockpit. It is the main control area where the pilot manages everything. There are 4 main controls: the cyclic, the collective, the anti-torque pedals, and the throttle. When one indicator alarm turns on, it usually means something needs to be checked. Historically, the word cockpit was actually a sailing term before it was used in aviation. Next is the main rotor system, which is the most important part of a helicopter. This is what allows the helicopter to turn, gain altitude, and move in any direction. The pilot controls this movement through the swash plate. Main rotor system can be rigid, semi-rigid, or fully articulated, and they allow movements like feathering, flapping, and lead and lag. Older rotor blades were made up of wood and fabric until stronger materials was introduced in the 1960s. The tail rotor is located at the back of the helicopter. Its job is to counteract the torque created by the main rotor. Without the tail rotor, the helicopter will spin uncontrollably in the opposite direction of the main blades. Today, modern design include the fenestron and the notar system, which are quieter and safer. For landing gear, helicopter either use skids or wheels. Skids are common and can have accessories like beer posts, floats, and pontoons. Beer posts allows help when landing on uneven or soft ground, while flow allow the helicopter to land in water, but they have specific pressure requirements, so they can be used on all helicopters. Wheels reduce drag and are easier to do hangar operation. There are also retractable landing gear systems that help lessen drag, and recently robotic landing gear has been developed to allow the helicopters to land on uneven terrain more safely. Helicopter use either reciprocating engine or turbine engine. Reciprocating engine use piston, while turbine engine uses mixed air and fuel to create high-speed gas that drives the turbine. Turbine engines are more powerful for their weight. The faster the helicopter, the flight record is around 200 knots, and the longest flight without landing is over 2,200 miles. Helicopters are extremely versatile. They can hover, move straight up, sideways, or land in places where airplanes cannot. Some important rotor blade terms include the hub, which is the attaching point, the root, which is the inner end, and the tip, which is the outer end. Blade twist is also important because it distributes lift evenly and reduces stress on the blades. Now, let's move on to the swash plate assembly. The swash plate takes the pilot control input and sends them back to the rotor blade so their pitch can change. It has two main parts, the stationary swash plate and the rotating swash plate. The stationary part tilts and moves up and down but does not spin. The rotating part spins with the mass and carries the movement to the blades. Both plates are connected by the uniball sleeve, which allows the plates to tilt and move together. At the top of the rotor system is the Jesus nut, also called the mass nut. This nut holds the whole rotor system to the mass. If it fails, the rotor can detach, which is why it's jokingly called the Jesus nut. It needs special tools and exact torque during maintenance. The freewheeling unit is another important part. Its job is to disconnect the engine from the rotor if the engine loses power, allowing the helicopter to auto-rotate safely. Most helicopters use a sprung clutch, which has roller that either engage or disengage depending on RPM difference between the engine and the rotor. Finally, we have the transmission system, which delivers power from the engine to the rotors. It has its own oil system for lubrication and cooling. Chip detectors are installed to catch metal particles inside the transmission. If the detector senses metal, a warning light turns on and some detectors have burn-off feature to melt tiny particles. But if the warning stays on or the chips are big, emergency procedures must be followed. So, to wrap everything up, what we've learned is that a helicopter might look simple from the outside, but everything inside it works together in a very precise and complicated way. From the early ideas of vertical flight all the way to modern rotor system, every improvement was made to solve one major challenge: how to control something that's constantly fighting physics. We talk about how the main rotor, tail rotor, or the newer system like Fenestron and Notar help keep the helicopter stable. We also learn how the flight control like the cyclic, collective, pedals, and throttle let the pilot move the aircraft in ways an airplane never could. Then we look at the transmission, swash plate, and the Jesus nut or the mass, and even the freewheeling unit, which are all small but extremely important components that keep the helicopter safe. What's interesting is that all of this concept don't just stay in textbooks. In real-life operation, mechanics and pilots rely on them every day, from doing inspection, checking chip detectors, and making sure that the drive shaft and bearings are healthy, to understanding how each rotor system responds during flight. At the end of the day, helicopters are made to do things no other aircraft can do: hover, lift vertically, land in tight spaces, rescue people, and operate in tough environments. And it's only possible because of the system we studied and the maintenance that keeps them in top shape. So, that's the big picture. Helicopters are complex, but once you understand how each part works and why it matters, you really start to appreciate the engineering behind them. So, thank you for listening, and I hope this helps you see the helicopter operations and maintenance in a clearer and more exciting way. Once again, I am Renz Evan Silumanglas, and this is my podcast about helicopters. Thank you.